What if America's debt grew so big it made skyscrapers look tiny, climbing all the way to the clouds, reaching 250% of our entire economy? Would your Social Security check still land in your mailbox or bank account each month? Or would Washington suddenly tighten the belt and leave millions of seniors and disabled Americans scrambling? That's not science fiction. It's the question global economists just raised at the Federal Reserve's Jackson Hole Conference. And today, I'll break down exactly what this means for your Social Security, SSI, SSDI, and SNAP benefits. Before we dive in, let me ask you, do you believe this much debt could really exist without touching your benefits? Or do you think Washington is setting us up for painful cuts later? I want you to comment down below. I read every thought and opinion you leave. And while you're here, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Social Security Post, your trusted channel where we cut through the headlines and explain what really matters for your checks and your future. Picture this. The United States borrowing so much money that the debt towers over the entire economy, worth 2.5 times every dollar we all earn and produce combined. Imagine a world where Washington never worries about the bill, where politicians sign massive spending packages, and still, your Social Security check arrives on time like nothing ever happened. It feels like a dreamland of endless money, but the fantasy is built on a fragile promise. Economists say maybe, just maybe, we can handle that much debt without interest rates spiking. For everyday recipients of Social Security, SSI, SSDI, and SNAP, that sounds like reassurance. But here's the question. Is it really stability? Or is it a ticking time bomb disguised as calm waters? At the Fed's Jackson Hole Conference, 4 economists shocked the financial world with a bold claim. America could grow its debt to 250% of GDP, and interest rates might not rise. Normally, more debt means higher borrowing costs. But their paper suggests demand for U.S. government bonds, especially from aging retirees and global investors, could keep interest rates low. In simple words, people want to keep lending us money, so Washington keeps borrowing it. This is where it matters for you. If borrowing stays cheap, Washington can keep funding Social Security, Medicare, and food programs without immediately raising taxes or cutting benefits. But here's the catch. That calm doesn't last forever. Because even in their report, the warning was clear. Eventually, debt outpaces demand. And when that day comes, it could shake the very programs millions of Americans rely on. The authors described it as a race between an aging America that demands more safe investments like U.S. bonds and a government issuing more debt to cover Social Security, Medicare, and rising healthcare costs. As long as those two run together, the system looks balanced. The treadmill keeps moving, and both sides keep pace. But for recipients, the danger is what happens when the treadmill speeds up. If debt grows faster than demand, the balance tips. Suddenly, Washington must choose. Borrow at higher costs or cut programs to survive. For SSI, SSDI, and SNAP users who already live on the edge, that imbalance could mean delayed checks, stricter eligibility, or smaller COLA increases. The race might look like an academic idea, but it's a race that runs right through your wallet. Even the economists admitted this. At some point, the music stops. Debt supply eventually outruns demand, and when it does, interest rates climb, borrowing gets more expensive, and Washington faces a budget crisis. That's when lawmakers often turn to the largest spending areas first: Social Security, Medicare, and programs like SNAP. Think about it. If the government suddenly pays more just to borrow money, where do they find savings? Programs that serve millions, like yours. Seniors might face new tax burdens on Social Security. Disability recipients could see stricter reviews. SNAP funding could shrink. The reality is clear. Debt can grow high, but it can't grow forever without consequences for the very people who depend most on government programs. Now, add fuel to the fire. Just this summer, Congress passed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and the Congressional Budget Office said it would push debt projections even higher, by almost 10%. On paper, lawmakers celebrated it as relief for households. But behind the scenes, it means adding billions more to the mountain of U.S. debt. For Social Security recipients, that's a double-edged sword. More spending today may ease some burdens. But long-term, it leaves your benefits at greater risk if Washington faces a debt squeeze. Think of it like putting groceries on a credit card. Yes, the food is on the table tonight, but when the bill comes due, how will it be paid? And will programs like SSI, SSDI, or SNAP be the first sacrifice? Looking far into the future, the economists dared to imagine 2100, where U.S. debt equals 250% of GDP, yet interest rates remain where they are today. It's a stunning picture. But to make that dream real, they admitted one big requirement: a fiscal adjustment of at least 10% of GDP. That means massive changes, higher taxes, reduced spending, or both. For recipients, let's translate that: higher payroll taxes on workers funding Social Security, possibly higher Medicare premiums for seniors, and stricter caps on SNAP funding. The paper's vision is a what-if world that works only with hard sacrifices. And who often shoulders those sacrifices first? Those depending most on benefits. So, let's stop thinking about 2100 and talk about today. Rising debt already puts pressure on Social Security and disability programs. Washington may delay tough choices, but the signs are there. Every year, COLA is debated, Medicare premiums creep higher, and SSI adjustments lag behind inflation. Add rising debt, and the excuses for tighter rules grow stronger. That means beneficiaries must prepare. SSI recipients may see tougher reporting rules. SSDI applicants may face stricter evaluations. SNAP households could see eligibility narrowed. In short, while the economists debate faraway numbers, you could feel the impact right now in the form of slower or smaller benefit growth. Debt doesn't just sit on paper, it spills into your grocery cart, your rent bill, and your doctor visits. If rates stay low, Washington can borrow more, but that usually stokes inflation. And when inflation rises, every Social Security check feels smaller. Seniors already know what it's like when COLA raises 3%, but prices climb 6%. That's the quiet danger debt creates, not an immediate cut, but a silent squeeze on your spending power. SNAP users know this firsthand. Benefits may rise a little, but prices for food outpace them. Inflation doesn't show up in a headline about debt, but it shows up every time you swipe your EBT card at the grocery store. Here's the question everyone wants answered. Will debt change your monthly check? The fantasy says no. Checks arrive like clockwork, no matter how high the debt grows. Washington keeps borrowing and life goes on, but reality whispers something else. When borrowing costs rise, Congress looks at Social Security as a target. Maybe not a missed payment, but smaller COLA increases, higher taxes on benefits, or a higher full retirement age. For SSI and SSDI recipients, the risk is even greater. Smaller monthly adjustments could mean a very real cut in daily life. SNAP users might not see debt in headlines, but they'll feel it in reduced funding allocations. Another twist to the story. Much of U.S. debt is bought by global investors and foreign governments. As long as they trust America, they keep lending. But what happens if that trust fades? Suddenly, Washington must pay more to borrow, draining money away from benefits. For Social Security recipients, it's like a household maxing out a credit card. As long as the bank keeps saying yes, life continues. But if the bank hesitates, everything changes. That's why SNAP, SSI, and SSDI recipients should care deeply. Because if the world stops buying America's debt, your programs may face the axe faster than anyone expects. Let's return to the fantasy for a moment. Imagine a future where Washington can borrow endlessly. Every check arrives on time. SSI never misses a month. SNAP never reduces. Medicare covers everything without question. That's the dream, a world where debt doesn't matter. But even the economists admitted it's just that, a dream. Because at some point, the bill must be paid, and history shows us who pays first, those least able to fight back. That means seniors, disabled Americans, and low-income families who rely on benefits. The fantasy is beautiful, but the reality is sobering. So here's the bottom line. Debt may rise higher than anyone thought possible, but it won't rise forever without consequences. For Social Security, SSI, SSDI, and SNAP recipients, the impact will show up in COLA, in eligibility, in taxes, and in the programs you depend on every day. The big question is when, not if. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe Washington can keep this debt game going without touching your benefits? Or do you think cuts are coming sooner than we think? Drop your answer in the comments. I'll be reading them all. And before you go, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Social Security Post, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update on the policies and programs that directly affect your checks and your future.